What's up, flooring family? Welcome to the Huddle. We come at you every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Central, to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. Be it an installer, a company, we kind of tackle a ton of different topics on this podcast. With me, as always, Mr. Daniel and Jose Gonzalez of Preferred Flooring in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I almost said Detroit. That just almost rolled right out.
That's okay. We wouldn't even have stopped you. We would have just let it go.
Oh, well, how's it going today, guys?
Well, we're a couple minutes late, right? But that's good because I was actually on the road. I didn't think I was going to make it. So I logged on the road and took that opportunity of being a little bit behind to get in the office. I
had a little technical difficulty here. I'll call it as it is. It was user malfunction and not any part of the actual technology. So, well, we are today's topic. Like I said before, we kind of tackle topics from all sides of the industry, whether it's the training organizations, but to companies and installers, but primarily we're talking to the installer and those who are looking maybe to move their career in a different path, start a flooring company, take over their dad's company, their uncle's, whatever, be a successor of some sort, all the way to just the guy that's out there working his butt off for the industry, installing carpet and tile and resilient and all the good flooring products out there. So today's topic, effective project management. We've kind of touched on some, key points to this topic in other episodes. I guess we'll probably be saying that a lot now that we're 60 something episodes in.
60, right?
60. This is number 60.
60.
We've been doing this for over a year, guys. So I want to thank all of our audience and the people who tune in. I love hearing from you guys. I got a call this week. Actually got a couple of calls this week. And it's just nice when people reach out and say they enjoy the Huddle and they watch us religiously on one of the media channels and bring up questions that they had on some stuff. So this week got a call from an installer on just wanting some guidance on how to move into the commercial world. And so that's always refreshing. I'm sure you guys get it too. I know you do. So It's awesome. And want to just thank everybody who tunes in. And without further ado, we will get started. I'm going to start with a question. What is project management? It's kind of used in so many different industries for so many different things. If you ever want to do an experiment, go to ZipRecruiter and put a job posting for project manager and see what you get.
Wow, you're gonna get a lot.
You'll get everything from a guy that designs and oversees or project manages new parts for airplanes to project managers for food companies. It's a big, broad term, but in our industry, it's just that. It's a project and there's a manager that has to oversee the schedule, the labor allocation, and the finances and budget of that job. So, do you guys agree that that's pretty much what the definition is for us?
I do. And I think depending on the size of your outfit is going to depend on what that project manager has on their plate. So if you want to give it that title, right? So
could be the owner.
Yeah.
Oftentimes is one of the I still project manage work and we do hundreds of projects a year, but I still project manage work. I know you guys both run jobs and project manage. So there's always seemed to be pillars to these types of titles as far as like effectively managing projects. what do you guys think some of the pillars are to you, like the key points that all the other stuff falls under?
Well, the main key point for us is going to go back to like one of the other episodes where we talked about communication. Like that right there to me is number one. If you can't keep an open line of communication or understand how to communicate any aspect of the project, whether it's with your client or your installer or the crews or multiple crews, you're going to be in a really, really bad spot.
Yeah, so that was the first pillar on my that I had written down as well, and I put labor and client. So you hit the nail on the head. Obviously, a lot of times for the audience, we don't on every episode. We're not able to kind of get together and plan for it. So we ad-lib some of this stuff, and one of the great things about PF is we have a lot of similarities in how we look at business, and so we can get away with that because our answers are often the same. So I wanted to say that communication doesn't just mean communication when it's convenient or when you have good news, or your client wants to hear from you, and you don't want to hold off and tell them nothing. Silence is worse than telling them, hey, I don't know yet. I just called the vendor. The materials are still not released, or still not produced, or still not on the truck, or
he's dealing with that right now.
Oh my goodness.
right? I mean, you still have to call them and say, I wish I could tell you something, and I certainly would if I could, but this is the reality. And sometimes you got to back it up with communication. I'd add to that communication list your vendors, because a lot of times it's saved us with our clients where we just forward them the email from the vendor and say, here's the proof. We're not just trying to delay your job or not show up or short labor. They automatically think you don't have guys and you're using material delivery. At least that's kind of the tendency around here. I don't know.
Right.
I want to speak for you guys, but they tend to think like you're purposely doing it or something.
Right. And even when it comes down to some change orders, I just had a project at a school, and they're like, we need to get it done by this date, and I'm like, well, that's already gone and sailed, right? But we can get the product here sooner. And that's all I did. I took the price that the rep gave me. I'm like, I'm not trying to make money on this. I just want to get this material here just as fast as you guys do. This is what it's going to cost. That's it.
Yeah.
Yep. And showing we have a job, well, several dealerships we're doing for a dealership group. And the one thing that we're waiting on is the entry mat system. It's like an aluminum, I won't name any names or anything, but it's aluminum entry mat system. There's a couple out there. So
yeah,
there's a few out there, so you can, but they take time to produce. They're custom. Every single one of them are custom to the size that you need. And our client just keeps pounding on us about the delivery of it. And we're like, hasn't been produced yet. Hasn't been produced yet. And when our PM doesn't communicate that, it makes the client more nervous. They don't think you even are working on their problem if you don't communicate. And so that's why communication, to me, even if it's not the news you want to deliver, maybe it's no news, waiting to hear good news and then communicate that, because that's easier and feels better than communicating bad or no news.
Right.
But it's important, I think, that you still communicate the bad news. Let your client know that you're on it. And same with vendors. If you're waiting on something, communicating with them, because certainly we have a saying in our company that we have to be better than our vendors, because a lot of times they tell us a date and it doesn't come in, and so we have to deal with those issues, as well as communication from them. They don't just offer up, hey, it's on the truck, it's on its way, because there's so many fires. And I don't blame them. I'm just saying that it's the fact.
Right.
Yeah. Product waiting to hear on. But if you don't reach out to them and communicate, it's like we're the catalyst to the whole situation. We have to reach out to the vendor, get the information, and then call our client, give them the information. because it doesn't always just flow freely from our vendor, even if it's a rush hot issue, because they got 20 other of us that probably have the same thing going on. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And you know, we've talked about communication on almost everything, but the saying is there for a reason. Communication is key, or the key. And that's because it's probably the most important part to any aspect of business, whether you're collecting money, you know, trying to be an effective project manager or whatever. I mean, you guys love communication. What's one of the tools? What's your best, not tools? How do you guys look at it? I mean, do you consider, when you're talking a client, let's use a situation where you have a client, you're really, they need to get in their building and you don't have the answer. Do you guys still just call them and say, look, I don't have an answer yet, but I'm
Yes.
on it. I just called, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's not even, it's communicating with them that you're also communicating with your reps and trying to get some answers. It's like, I talked to him 3 times today and I still got nothing.
Yeah.
And it's so going back to that right there, like I just want to add to that too. Like when you said communicating good news or bad news, to me it's more important to communicate the bad news, so that way a solution can start materializing if you need to kind of take a lateral movement, and then it is the good news. The good news is great. It's going to be good news at 8 a.m. and it's still going to be good news at 3 p.m. right? But the bad news at 8 a.m. is better to have the bad news at 8 a.m. than 3 p.m. You know,
I tell my crews that too. Like, if you could just tell me the day before that you're not going to be able to, and not just don't show up or don't, you know.
It's not even like that with us. It's with our crews. It's it'll be 3:30 and then they'll be like, hey, we're not going to be done today. And it's like, you should have known this hours ago.
At lunchtime, at least at lunchtime, at least by lunchtime.
You kind of have an indicator for dang sure.
I did
that's what I wanted to kind of draw, you know, guide towards or get to, is, you know, we need our crews to communicate with us too. When you're talking about schedule, it's not always the vendor. I mean, they're our vendor in that, in the labor side is the crew.
Yeah.
Or the employee installer, just letting you know so you can effectively communicate. A lot of times I wonder why they don't, you know. My guess is they think they're going to disappoint you, or you're going to ask them to work harder or something.
I mean, at that point, it doesn't matter. I mean, depending on the schedule, it is room for disappointment, right? But like I said, you can't start finding a solution unless you know that there's an issue, you know, and that's the biggest thing. Like, it's okay. If I'm doing something and I'm not going to make a deadline, I have to bring that out to the forefront, depending on what type of project it is. If I don't know till 3 p.m. that they're not going to be done that day, but we were scheduled to turn it over that night for cleaning crew, I like egg on the face, right? Like, that's something I need to know. And then, and going back to like the rep and the vendor issue too, it's one thing that I've learned recently is the open communication with them. Hey, just checking to make sure that my product is going to be here on time. Hey, I haven't received a response on the purchase order, or a courtesy response on the purchase order that I sent in 2 months ago. And where's the product? Product scheduled to be here 2 days ago and I haven't seen it yet. Oh yeah, we never processed that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's another example of like being better than your vendor.
Yeah.
It's just like, we've had it the same exact thing where, whether they didn't place the order, well, we sent, you know, some guy at your company a confirmation and never got signed, so the order didn't get placed or something. And I'm like, you guys don't
follow up.
Like, so that's where you just gotta like follow up. Hey, is this order good? Is it placed? Is it moving? Yes. Okay.
A lesson learned on my behalf as well. Like don't always trust the process, right? And if something did get missed or overlooked, it's not one way or the other. It's both sides. And if it's late, it's my fault regardless. I have to say it's my fault.
Yeah.
I can blame it on whoever I want, but I have to say it's my fault. It doesn't make anybody look any better when you start saying, well, this person and that person, or this company, that company. You got to be willing to take the full force of whatever incident, whatever bad news.
Yep.
I'm okay doing that. I mean, I'm not okay doing that, but I'm okay doing that. Does that even make sense?
Well, I mean, sometimes it is both ways. I mean, sometimes like the bad news, they're going to find out regardless anyway. It's just, are you going to communicate so that they can start problem solving, which is number 2 on my list, is effective problem solving. But it's derived from communication. So it's real hard to, like you said, you let right into it. It's hard to start thinking about solutions and problem solving if you don't know there's a problem. So that, like I said, the earlier you can communicate that, the better off you are.
That's across the board. I think that's everybody. That has to be everybody.
So on effective problem solving, provide solutions is top of my list. Like think of it from a solutions provider. I love like even your guys's, I believe your email signature says something about your solutions provider or something, right?
Yeah, thank you for trusting Preferred Flooring for helping you with your flooring solutions or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
those things right there. I don't even think about that. So like I was doing my signature and I was like, oh, this sounds pretty good.
Well, it's true though. That's what you really do. And then I have focus on future. Don't, it's real easy to get in a situation where you're fighting over what has happened and you're not focused on trying to get whatever the problem is solved.
Right.
I had a big blow up last week. I'm probably still have elevated cortisol levels from getting in a big argument with a foreman on a job site, and I was just trying to get him to understand that I need your help now to get this building done. My guys have this problem. You should have been done a week ago. Okay, what can I do about that?
How does that help the situation right now?
I'm not God, dude. You can keep yelling at me about how I should have been done, or I can say that you didn't, pay attention to our durations, and we can have a fight for an hour on this thing. But right now, I'm about 2 hours away, 3 hours away from finishing your job. If I can get a solution to this, would you like that? Let's talk about. So I want to focus on what we can do about what is right at us right now. It's kind of like, what do they say? You don't worry about having an infection in your toe when a lion's chasing you or something like that. I mean, the problem is right. That is the problem. All the other problems, all the other stuff, you got to solve the main problem first. And so, which leads me into the last part of effective problem solving is understanding what the problem in front of you is and not getting distracted by what these other little things that make. And I have a specific thing in my head, specific problem in my head, that why I'm saying little things. They may not be little things, but in this particular situation, all this other stuff was inconsequential. It's a time waste at this moment. We have a lion on top of us. How do we get him off? How do we fix the problem that is happening right now? And we got around it, finally got to it. So got the the problem solved, and we actually got the job done. We were a few hours late, but got the project completed. So what else, what is on your guys, what else do you guys see as effective, key things or important things on effective project management?
Being open about scenarios up front with the guys, we've been around for a little while, right? We've been in a lot of different scenarios.
So you're talking about planning. I can already
Planning,
tell.
yes, planning, right? So you hope for the best, you plan for the worst, and try to give as much information up front as possible without overwhelming anyone, right? So that way they can process what they have in front of them without overwhelming. So they're not already on a stressful level. So that way, if a problem does arise, then they're able to attack that particular issue or that particular problem without worrying about the stress of everything else, because it's kind of mapped out. I wish someone did that for me when I started, but it's not always the case, right? And some of it is you just gotta go with the flow. But that's try to alleviate stresses whenever possible from any of the crews or the generals or the sales rep or whoever, the client. Try to go over those scenarios and possibilities before they become an issue.
Ahead of time. So like planning to me could have been, I guess I have it down later on the list, but it could have been number 1 too. I mean, because that prevents so many problems and issues that come up. There's the 6 P's that a guy here that built Rent-A-Center, Tom Devlin. I've talked to a bunch of the people that have worked for him back in the past when he owned Rent-A-Center, and he sold that in like the late 80s. Real big success story for here in Wichita, and he started an entrepreneurial program at our college at Wichita State University. I tell you that because one of his sayings was the 6 P's was piss poor planning, or proper planning prevents piss poor production.
I like that.
So, from a production standpoint and getting stuff done, if you plan properly, you can get through, you just alleviate so many headaches. I tell my team, it's like invest your time, don't spend it. If you invest it, it's early on, you're investing in the project, you're investing these hours in planning.
Like that.
And it's an investment because it has an ROI. It pays you back. You get that time back for damn sure. If you don't plan and you have all these problems at the end, and we've had it, we still have it, where project managers don't plan out their project properly and have a good plan for how they're going to get from A to B, whether it's a phase or an entire job or whatever. And I preach that it's investing your time when you're planning, it's spending your time putting out fires. And I can't think of a better way to say it, but that's just the kind of the saying that we use. And when it's done, it pays dividends, man. It pays back in spades, because you're just not wasting all that time. And you know how it is. How much more money do you spend hot shotting material or doing things like this when, paying extra freight or on the phone, just constantly tracking something, because we're not perfect. We don't always plan appropriately, but a little bit of planning could have prevented it. And, earlier ordering, checking with your vendor on, is this a 3 to 6 week production, or is this a 6 to 12 week type of production? Those types of things are what still get us in trouble sometimes. We'll think something's a normal, it's out of stock, back order kind of product or whatever, and you just assume that because the last order was 3 to 6 weeks, that this one is.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a different fiber on a carpet, and they have to buy the fiber. They don't make it in house, and then they're waiting on the fiber production and all these things that can happen. I should have threw that in. So you want to be a commercial contractor?
Yeah, that scenario just happened on one of the projects that Daniel was talking about. Is you know, they put in a revision on a product, and they wanted, you know, 12-foot wide sheet goods instead of 6-foot wide to reduce seams. It's like, well, all right, well, let me find out if it's available. Yeah, it's available. I have this much right now in this state. All right, awesome. So everything got approved. 2 days later, placed the order,
It was gone.
and it was gone. Yeah, so I had to go back to production.
So any clients out there watching, just remember, if you don't order the product immediately, it could be gone immediately.
Yeah,
We don't have the control, and the mill's not, or the distributor is not going to not sell it unless you have it on hold or ordered.
yeah, we're talking thousands of yards, and that was because when a corporation is involved, right? They have their processes and procedures that they have to follow as well, and everything's got to trickle up before we get an answer, right? Okay, yeah, I like it, but we got to get an answer. We got to get an answer.
Check all those
until it gets final approval, and that's what happened. And we got it approved in a couple of days, but that was a couple of days too late.
Yeah, I've had that happen a handful of times. You order something or you check stock on something, and then I say a handful, probably 5 handfuls of times over the 2 years. A handful of time over the last couple of months, probably. But you check on it, and then just about, it seems like immediately someone in the atmosphere heard you and ordered the damn product right after you called and checked stock on it.
Ding, ding, ding! Order now.
Yeah,
been in their shopping cart for 3 weeks.
I wanted to bring up technology and its role. It's not a pillar, but I thought it has a role here.
It is a pillar.
It is a pillar.
It is a pillar, dude.
You think it's a pillar? Okay.
It is. It is.
What's your so technology? To me, the reason I didn't call it a pillar was just the fact that, and it probably is, but the reason I didn't was it supports effective communication. If you think back before email and stuff, how those people had to get the information from one person to the next, it was days, picking up the phone, calling someone else's landline. Hey, Jim, that carpet's not going to be here until February. All right, click. He has to drive to the job site, let his superintendent know. We didn't have all this technology where it was just instantaneous and you're forwarding messages and stuff, and you can get the same information in seconds that used to take days to get. So it really supports effective communication, and understanding, one of communication, and that is a pillar in Go Carerra, because that is one of the biggest things that we feel can help, is keeping the communication with the project. If you do a lot of projects, text messages and emails can get lost, or just you can find them, but they're in a chain of things that you don't remember what was said before or after or whatever. And sometimes we'll have people that you start a communication on email, and then they go to text message. Then it's a phone
back
call.
to email.
Look,
yeah, like just
we were there. We were there. That's what we were doing. It was hard to keep track, right? And then there's 5 different threads of text messages, and then the emails, and then you start having a conversation about project B and C, but you're on email thread project A, and it's just it takes practice to get better at making sure that you're intentional on the communication in its specific area and where it belongs, and
in its piece of technology.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I was really against it for a long time, but now I'm the one who gets frustrated when people are taking conversations outside of a specific thread where it should be, where it belongs, right? So you don't get lost.
Yeah, where you can keep track, some level of tracking on it.
Yeah, and Daniel was light years ahead of me. It's amazing the difference. He's only 6 years younger than I am, but it's amazing the difference in technology, what he grew up with versus what I did.
The
And
adoption.
yeah, the understanding and importance of what he has taught me about technology versus what I thought I didn't need. We just had a conversation with a client today, measuring with measuring with a mobile app. Walked around with me, distracted me so much that I left my laser and my tape measure there. And he called me when I was 5 minutes from the shop. Hey, Jose, you forgot? Sure did. But
Yeah. Technology goes a long way. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways where it can help overall life, obviously, but when you're talking about project management, everybody else is moving at the speed of light, communication with your client. And if you deal with general contractors and bigger general contractors that are using Procore and all these things, and Go Carerra is kind of the Procore for flooring subs in a way, and it just wants to keep the communication packed around the project. But the point here is, if everybody else is using it, you better, or using a piece of technology, and this is not obviously to you guys, but if you were a fan of the previous series about becoming a flooring contractor, one thing I can tell you is that you're going to have to embrace technology. You're going to have to really look at the different accounting tools and the different, communication tools and different applications that best serve your business. But they're essential for these other things to work at all.
yeah,
At least in today's world.
it is, and it's hard to explain that to some individuals who are still stuck in their old ways. I would just say, right? Like, oh, I don't need that. I'm successful without that. And like, I guess if you're willing to stay stagnant and in that same repetitive lifestyle, then yes. But if you're someone who's trying to scale up and you're trying to promote your business and get better and become more efficient, then technology is something you cannot leave behind.
Trying to have forward progress.
Yeah.
Amen.
There you go. It's just some people just don't understand that, man, and you don't want to.
It is hard, especially like when we started implementing teams. It was everyone is learning it all at the same time, and I'm
still learning it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and technology changes too, right? So they're gonna have updates, and then you got to relearn it. But it's like, without having everything in that particular job, you can't just go back and be like, oh, let me just scroll through this job. Then you got to go through, dang, who was that I was emailing? What was their name again?
Yeah.
What project was that?
Tearing up the search box.
Yeah, tearing it up. Tearing it up.
I hate the search box.
I think that you're right. Technology could be considered a pillar, or it could just be complementary to every pillar that's in there, right? Like
Could be the one that holds all the pillars up.
I mean, to me, it's an add mixture to your foundation. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It might not be a pillar, but it's definitely mixed into every little bit and piece of any industry. And problem solving. You could use technology, plan for the future, for communication, whether it is the client, the labor, a rep, a manufacturer. Like, technology is part of everything that we do right now, and it's not going away anytime soon.
Amen. So just to go back a little bit to proper planning, I forgot to mention, this is, I'll be a little vulnerable and transparent. One of our biggest problems across our team is setting realistic expectations early on, part of the planning process. But I got a PM right now that's he learned his lesson. He's in a battle, pre-planned battle with a contractor who asked for durations on the last portion of a job, and he said it's going to take 3 weeks. The guy starts, mulling it over and responds, well, that should take 2 weeks. He goes, it's going to take 3 weeks. That's our duration. That's how much time. We've already done 9 of these buildings. We know how long the last one's gonna take with our current labor source that we have available to do that job. And it's gonna take 3 weeks. That's one thing, and I'm proud of him for like doing that and getting out ahead of it, because we were expected to do the same job, the same building, each one of the other 9 in like 3 days, and it's impossible without having 7 or 10 guys on each floor, like literally one crew per unit. It's without having one crew in each unit doing all the different flooring, whether it's the LVT, the base, or the carpet, or whatever, but doing the whole scope in each unit and having one crew in each unit on each floor. It's impossible to get it done in 3 days. We ended up having like 40 some guys on that job site at one time trying to get it caught up, because
Wow.
or we allowed the client to set the unrealistic expectation. It goes, sometimes it's them setting it and you don't say anything, but part of planning is rebutting that and saying, no, this is how long it should take. And I mean, it caused us a heck of a problem, because Go Carerra or not, I could shoot out a work order and maybe get some extra guys over there, but then you got hours of time when you're on fire like that to try to get a new crew started on a new job and all that stuff. You're like, F it, this guy did the other student housing, get him over here. He did one, get him over here, and you're trying to just get the project finished. But I feel like that planning is really a lot about proper expectation management, like telling the client what the real truth is. And I found more and more, and you guys probably can echo this, that we are getting squeezed more and more on our duration.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, guys, some of the products have to dry before. We don't control that. It could take an hour, or it could take 4 hours, and I don't know if the concrete's nice and dry and the ambient temperature and humidity's reasonable, then it'll probably dry in an hour. But you get a few dozen windows opened into the job site because people want to throw their trash out of them or something. All of a sudden, it could take 4 hours for that same area to dry. And so that proper duration has been, and the fact that I don't know where it stops, but clients thinking that because one job you were able to go slam in 1,100 yards in a day of carpet tile with two crews or something, that's doable on every job because it's a similar size. And one's a big single room and one has
20 offices.
And it's like, it's not apples for apples. But a lot of times
they just look at square footage. That's all
they just look at square footage. And it doesn't comprehend or compute. So I want to throw that out there, that properly setting the expectation when you're doing your planning can help a lot as well. And we have to get better at that.
Well, I think that's
everyone has to get better at that. Yeah. And that's something that I've done too in the past, where they do give you a timeline and then you're like, no, it's going to take this much. And then it's like, well, if you want it to take that much, want to cut it down by that much time, we can, but it's going to take this much more to do it. And, switching products out, it's like, we're not going to skim coat the whole thing. We're going to self-level it with an expensive self-leveler that's going to cure in an hour. So, yeah. I mean, you want to,
and sometimes it just can't be done. No matter.
Yeah.
I got another job that had a similar deal. We told them a month ahead of time, we told them it was a month duration to get all this Nora flooring down. And it's a lot of yardage. Flash cove, heat welded everywhere. Like the hallways are not, flat lay, and the rooms, everything's flash cove. There's corners everywhere. And they just couldn't understand why this area was going to take so long. And we said, because we know what it's going to take. It's going to take a month. When they release their damn schedule. They gave us 13 days. Guess what happened? Didn't get done in time. No way.
Took a month.
It's taking a month. And it's also not something you just throw a bunch of more people at, because
more people doesn't equal more production. It equals more problems, especially on something as particular as Nora.
Exactly. It's a very particular product. And on top of that, when you can get too many people in an area, like not everybody can be productive when you start doing that. I mean, you have to be able to get out and get to the water to skim coat. But if that hallway is that is the only entrance into the other room is glued up or has product pulled back or it's being pattern felted or whatever the scenario, no one can go through there. And so like more people doesn't always solve the problem. And that's why those durations, we kind of saved ourselves on that deal, because we had it in writing that it was going to take a month to do. We told them very clearly it'd take a month, and they completely ignored it.
And that's that's the sad truth that's happening right now, is everything is getting funneled in, and we're finishers, right? Like we're coming in as finishers, and they're trying to get us the final product that everyone's going to see, that everyone is going that needs to outperform the stuff that's hidden. They want you to hurry up and get it done. I remember a conversation one time you were talking about ambient temperature and humidity. We ran into a really bad problem with humidity, and we're prepping and nothing's drying, not even with moving air. I remember the general telling me, well, you need to get more people here. And because I was young and the person that was, I was like, you want to blow on it? Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I said. You know what I mean? You want them to breathe on it? Like, I don't understand what more people is going to do. Well, that's not what I mean. Well, that's what's going on right now. So I guess, it's 1 o'clock and we don't usually leave at 1. We're usually last one's here, but we're leaving. There's nothing else I can do. So it was funny you said that. That's exactly what I said. And we've had instances where we've had too many people on a project. We've had new guys, and when you have a new guy, sometimes you do have one too many extra hands. And I remember a friend of mine that worked with us, and he was handing one of the installers one piece of base at a time because there was nothing for him to do. So he had it over his shoulder. Here you go. There you go. Oh, you
what about the other thing when you start talking about Shibano and stuff, and we've had this happen. You have one crew over here doing Shibano, another crew over there, and there's no specific boot way of doing the boots, and they don't communicate. One dude does a butterfly and one does an outside on an inside corner or an outside corner, different ways of doing your corners, and they're like, well, we like that way better than that way. And we're like, it's not specified. You made us have 3 different crews on the site.
Yeah.
One of those things that just happened. And I wish we would have caught it and had some pre-con meeting with all the crews, but by that time you're on fire. So again, planning durations can save your.
But that locks it in for if you ever run into that situation again. You're like, hey, you guys were already there. What are you doing? So that way everyone is, because they're both right.
Yeah,
it's just preference.
And if any resilient installers out there and you run into that, and if you're going to a project and it doesn't specify, then spend some time doing mock-up so they understand what you're talking about when you say.
Or go look at the other. If you're there helping another crew or doing the job, another crew, go look at the other guy's stuff. See how it's already been done. That would have solved our problem too, but that didn't happen either.
And if you ever get put in a situation where someone tells you on a Friday that you have to work through the weekend because it's got to be done, and then you have to hire other flooring companies to come and help, make sure you're not the flooring company that says, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Oh man. Nightmare.
Unless you're friends with the other flooring company and you can talk it through between the two of you about the best way to attack it.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often in the same market, obviously, but all right. Well, what other, you guys got anything else? That's the end of my list that I had written down that I found that, I felt like was important on our side.
I do have something else. And when you're project managing, put forth an effort to know your people. You're right. It's something as simple as knowing a hobby, knowing what they like to do, and conversating. It is one of those things that is very hard to remember to do when you feel like you have a million things to do all the time, right? Is to be personable, but make time for that. Be intentional about that. That's
and
no one does it as much as they want to, right? Or as much as they probably should, unless that's their full-time job. But be intentional and knowing, I don't want to say your audience, right? Because it's more than just your audience, but the people you work with, whether it's a rep versus your employee or your contractor, like strike up a conversation, know them, get to know them.
I'll add on to that just a little bit. Maybe not so personable, but still important. And in that same arena is, the quality expectation of things and how things are going to look.
Mm.
Making sure it's clear that, I know you, for example, we had on that student housing project, they totally said no prep, like do not prep the floors. Like, no, we're not paying you a dime to prep anything. All right, sign this paper. You understand that what the concrete and chipcrete look like is how this floor is going to look, right?
Oh.
And so going through that and listing out the things that can happen, like we can have peeling because the chipcrete's not properly prepared and all these things, and just listing them out. And the concrete itself had blisters in it where air bubbles came up, it didn't pop. It's like, that's going to show through. It's going to look like debris under the LVT, but it's not debris. It's the concrete bumps that are like throughout. So we don't always, sad to say, you don't always have the highest quality projects and project expectations that you like. I've got a few projects I wish, we didn't have to do because you just cannot possibly do the level of quality you would like to. But when you do come up against that, it's important to, plan on the expectation and make sure your client knows this is what to expect, and not just verbally. I would highly recommend you put that in writing, but
yes.
plays with that same thing, knowing what their expectation is and what it's going to look like, and then marrying those two together so that everybody's informed.
Yeah, we just we walked away from one of the construction companies not too long ago because they had I did all the legwork and got a system approved from the manufacturer that is still technically not warranted by the manufacturer, but it has been performing. So I did all that, and then they came back with, no, we just want to put floating floor in there. And I said, I'm not going to do it. And then they got all angry at me, and I was like, hey,
He was
going
to say butthurt is what he was going to say. Right?
But
yeah.
I just talked to the owner of that construction company, and I got a meeting with her in a couple weeks, and she was like, oh yeah, you were the one that was supposed to do that. It's all failing already.
There you go.
And we don't say I told you so either. We just say, well, do you need any help finding a solution?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Daniel did pull that up.
You can say it in your brain, but and it feels good to say it in your brain even, but not very productive to throw at them.
You don't go. I mean, oh
serve
no.
you right.
Yeah. Oh no. Some people just don't understand, and I get it. Sometimes solutions are outside of the budget that's available.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, that's what happened to us. They didn't have a dime extra. I mean, at all. And I usually will even give some to try to get it right, but it's such a massive project. And because it's individual units, you give to one unit, they're going to want all the units to look up. So unfortunately, you can't give to even one unit, or else everything else, you just raised the expectation level. Now you're skim coating and floating and doing everything on every unit. Why can't all the units look like this? Because you don't want to pay for it, and I decided to make one look good. Well, then you should have made them all look good. That kind of
This
thing.
is the unit I'm moving into, so I spent my time working on it. So
yeah, this is the one my kid's moving into, so I thought I'd take it. All right, guys. Well, we came to the end of our time. I feel like effective project management, just to recap the whole thing here real quickly, is communication with your labor, your client, your vendors, effective problem solving, being a solutions provider, embracing technology, and then proper planning prevents piss poor production.
I'm writing that down.
The sixth piece. So, all right, guys. Well, that hour flew by as usual. It's always a pleasure to hang out and talk to you guys. Again, I just want to say to the audience, convention with FCICA and CFI is coming up at the end of September. Look, I don't get nothing for this. I just think it's valuable for everybody that can go. So I know you guys feel the same way. Come hang out with us. And
I was gonna say, actually, I do get something out of it. Let's just go hang out.
Yeah,
go hang out by the pool bar.
Yeah, and if it's a Tuesday, maybe we'll pull you in on the podcast and you can contribute and be part of the huddle. So
the convention does start on that Wednesday, right? So you should be getting there a day earlier, anyways.
Yeah, then when you can join us.
I think we have we gotta attend a few things on Tuesday anyway.
Yeah, we have a meeting that goes right up until the time when this is supposed to start. So I'm probably gonna set everything up somewhere, go to the meeting.
That old story.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always got an excuse. Well,
that's how, we've shot them at poolside. We've shot them in
right outside the doors of a meeting.
We're going to be here on Tuesdays. That's our goal. We've only missed a couple in over a year. So, and one of those I think was a full technology failure. So, sometimes it happens, but, all right. Well, last but not least, please, if you enjoy the content or you see some value, give us a like, a subscribe. If you're on a YouTube channel or you're catching this on one of the social channels, comment. Tell us what you guys want to hear about. One thing I was going to throw out there, with all the Facebook groups we're part of, I thought we'd do maybe take one episode a month to just dig through some of the comments. We won't name any comments, but us comments.
We want screenshots. We want to put them on the screen. Let's dissect these.
We can. I mean, they put it out there publicly, but go through some of the questions, some of the problems out there, some of the funny shit you read, and
oh man,
on the Facebook groups, but just our comments about maybe it's the Go Carerra comment section of from the Facebook and Instagrams of the world. So I think that'd be fun, a little off the beaten path, not always so serious about how to run a business and things, and just have a little bit of fun with it. So
that does sound like a good time, actually.
It would be fun. If you guys are here and you want to comment on one of those, and you have an idea for a topic on the podcast, give us a shout on there. Let us know, and we'll do our best to put something together for it, and maybe your episode ends up.
I just read that comment right there.
But
commercial planning is some hard stuff when you add all these episodes.
I'll add all these episodes together.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Well, I have been commenting on here.
Oh man, sorry, that's funny to me because it's overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to the business. There's a lot to any business, but the flooring business, that's why we're here. We're here to help people, and
that's why we do it in segments, right? Because you learn a little bit at a time, because many small time make big time.
Amen. All right, fellas. We will chat with you guys next week. And until then, have a good week.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
see you guys.